Hey everyone, and welcome to Comedians on Technology, People, and Drugs. I'm your host, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have comedian Chloe Campbell on the podcast. Hey Chloe, it's really great to have you with us. Thanks so much for sharing your time.
No, it's great to be here. Very, very excited to be here virtually. Uh, Looking forward to it.
I mean, Zoom does. I think it's funny. I think there was when COVID came in and everybody moved on to Zoom. It was. I don't know. It wasn't great, but I find just it's now so easy to get together. Anyway, let's see. No, no, you're a funny person, and I'm sure that the audience is on the edge of their taste buds, no, earlobes, to understand your comedy origin story. Was it that you were a mythical warrior of Asgard, one of the few, female, and your all of your sisters were destroyed in a calamity, and now you're the one lone comedy Valkyrie, sort of fighting a swathe through the legions of boredom? How did it all kick off?
That's one way to describe Ireland, really. No, no, so it was sort of so I come from like an acting background.
Okay.
So I went to drama school, and I actually dropped out in second year.
Mm.
So that was a fun time. But I was always drawn, even when I was like auditioning and stuff for drama school, I was always drawn to like the comedy monologues. And I would go to all these auditions and I would see people, crying their eyes out or whatever. And I was going up there and talking about the most random stuff. And I was like, I just want to make, like, I was like, if I can make the panel laugh, class. Yeah, and then I dropped out of drama school, moved back to Ireland, where I'm from. Um, Surprise with this accent. Um, and yeah, it was like I think it was like 2022, and I'd always loved like the Irish comedy scene, like the Belfast comedy scene in particular is phenomenal. Like it's really, I don't know if you know, like, but the it's really booming at the minute. And I just looked up like Belfast open mic on Google once, like literally the summer. It was July in 2022, because I messaged the longest running open mic in Belfast is that called the Pavilion.
Hmm.
Shout out the Pavilion, they're great. Luke McGibbon, who runs it, legend. And I just messaged the Facebook page. I didn't even message up the guy who ran it. I didn't know anybody who had ever done stand up personally. And I just messaged one afternoon being like, "Hi, I've never done stand up before. Do you have any slots?" And he replied being like, "Yeah, how's next week or like the week after?" And I went, "Class." And I just turned up and that was that.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not familiar with the Irish comedy scene. I mean, in as much as I'm not really familiar with anything outside of my own orbits. I mean, I also don't really follow the news or any of these things. But that sounds great. We did have Cian Darcy on the podcast last week. He was talking about the Dublin comedy scene, and I mean, there are loads of amazingly funny Irish comedians, and we talked also about that sort of the kind of culture of all parts of Ireland, where sort of being able to tell a story and to tell a funny story is highly looked upon, shall we say?
Yes, 100%. Like I was actually talking to someone about this the other night as well. And we were talking about like heckling, and I was like, oh, I mean, the heckles you get in Belfast, like, are just because everyone in Belfast is like, oh, like basically, they've grown up being like, oh yeah, you're a comedian, da da da. But it's never like, well, I haven't experienced anything super bad, like when I was back home the other month there, I got heckled by this guy literally all throughout my set. And then he came up to me afterwards and went, "Oh, go on, girl. Yeah, you're very funny. You're very funny." And like, so it's like, they'll test you in a way
Right.
that I haven't found here. But it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. And so, just to dig into the story there, so acting background. So, I mean, it sounds like coming from an acting background, being on stage and being in front of people was something that you enjoyed from an early age. It was not something you were particularly intimidated by. Yeah, was that the case, or how did you get the acting bug originally?
it was sort of weird, like my like I so I'm like an only child, so it's I have no even my parents were not performers, were not anything like in that realm at all. So when I came along, I was sort of like and like an I can't say anomaly
Hmm.
in that world. And I was in just secondary school, and I auditioned for the play, like the school play. It was like Robin Hood, and every single school play, I always got like background, or like I was never ever the main role ever, but I just loved theater so much. And it was sort of like that in me. I was like, well, I'm always in like the background or the crowd. That was a big one, crowd. And I was like, I want to be the main character. Like that is something I really want to be. And I never got it. Genuinely, like never got it. And then when I was doing like A levels, I did like theater at A level. I did like extracurricular drama, and I was still always the background. And I feel like I was quite like a anxious like teenager. Like if you knew me at like, I don't know, like 15, 16, you would not think that I would be doing stand up now.
Yeah.
Like absolutely not. Um, but it was yeah, I think it was when I dropped out of drama school. It was weird. That was when I gained the most confidence.
Right.
Because I think,
And oh, sorry, go on.
oh no, no, I don't know. I think like making that decision to leave was like it's sort of like my brain like had a switch. But it took me a while. Like after I left, I that was probably like the lowest confidence I had ever had, and it took me like a year to sort of properly build up the confidence again.
Right. Well, I'm really interested in what you're saying there, particularly. Well, one, I guess, is that you were, say in the background of many of these plays, and you wanted to be more foreground, and I can certainly relate to that. And then so you were doing theatre A level, and you're doing drama school, but then you dropped out presumably because there was something about it that wasn't wasn't quite the direction you wanted to go in, which I'm really interested to hear about. And then you also saying about how, like, actually having made the decision in the long run, that kind of gave you more confidence, which I that if
Mhm.
that's what you're saying, that totally makes sense. But yeah,
Mhm.
tell us more about what was going through your mind at the time about why acting wasn't the direction you wanted to go in.
So it wasn't necessarily that act because I still want to like act. Like I've
Right.
got a like acting agent and that sort of
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
It was more that well, it was during COVID and
Mm.
it was just so difficult and I was paying so much money to be there. And it was just like and it was, I'm sure maybe if I had stuck it out, like I would have learnt more. But I was like, we're just doing so many random things. Like we had to go on like a run at like 7 a.m. every Friday morning. We were in classes from 8 a.m., sometimes to like 9 p.m. And I was like, I'm just being like an animal
Mm.
for like 9 grand. Like I don't like it was so much money, like so much money and I wasn't really feeling like I was developing. And sometimes in that environment, there can be so much competitiveness and and I was like, guys, we're all just here to learn. Like, we don't need to be, going at each other. And I think coming from the background that like I come from and growing up in Ireland, then going to like a drama school in like Surrey,
Okay.
which was like quite posh. And I was like, oh, okay, this is quite different. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily anything like nothing really bad happened,
No.
nothing like that. I was just like, you know what? And I was, unlike my family, like I was the first to go to uni. My family don't, like my parents didn't get A levels or anything like that. So it was quite a big thing. And I was like, am I letting you down? And my mum was like, Chloe, if you're not happy, just leave. So I
Brilliant.
was like, fair play. I will do that.
Right, right. No, that makes perfect sense. And yes, so yeah, it wasn't. I guess in my mind, I'd sort of partly because I uh, find acting. I have challenges related to acting, which is to do particularly with the repeating the same thing over and over again, and then doing like I mean having done a long time ago did a fringe run and like 30 shows in a row of exactly the same thing drove me absolutely nuts. So I think I was projecting there into the like, but rather than it being an issue with acting, it was. okay, the structure of this drama school and the direction it's going in, this is not quite working for me. And then actually,
Mhm.
it sounds like that was quite empowering for you to take that decision in your life and say, actually, this isn't working for me. And you said that that gave you more confidence in the long run, is what you said.
Yeah, I think it was like in no certain terms, like it really gave me like a kick up the ass
Mm.
because in third year, from what like my mates were saying, like you learn more about how to get an agent or more about the actual industry. Whereas I just had to sort of do all that myself. So it really was like, right, okay, I'm getting up, I'm doing the emails, I've got my spreadsheets. This is what I want to do, and no one's going to make it happen if it's not me, you know? So I think there's a ability from a lot of actors to sort of just coast and oh your agent they'll the agent's going to phone you and you have to do this and you have to do that, whereas I didn't have a safety net. I don't have a degree, so I was like, right, I need to go and just try my best.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Yeah, and you threw yourself into that, and you were saying how you always enjoyed the comedy monologues, and if you could get the casting panel laughing, and then yeah, so and this great story, you just sort of like, oh, I want to try the the open mic, and was that was and forgive me, you're maybe t telling me things that I'm misremembering on, but was that just sort of a whim that you were still so you were still having dropped out of the drama school, you were still very much right. I'm going to focus on doing acting and like doing that hard work to sort of connect with the industry and so on. And then it was sort of just like a whim. You thought, oh, I could do stand up as well. Tell us more about what was going through your mind when you sort of wanted to try that open mic experience.
I mean, you're pretty much bang on there. Like it was, it was genuinely. I was back living with my parents, so when I was away at uni, I was living in a flat share, and I felt like I was like, oh, I've taken a step back. I'm back with my parents. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm working like in a garden center. What's happening here? Um, and I was, I would always watch like podcasts or listen to comedy or watch stand-up specials or watch this. And I was like, and I didn't have anything written when I when I messaged. I just thought I'll message first and then that'll give me a deadline to do something. Um, and yeah, it genuinely, I was just sat literally on the sofa and I went, just gotta do this. And I told my mum and I was like, just signed up to do stand up. And she went, Chloe, like, are you okay? Like, are you going through like a crisis? Like, what's going on here? And I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. Just be a bit of crack. Like, if it goes, and I was like, if it goes bad, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, no one's going to die. Like, do you know what I mean? It is what it is. So,
Yeah, well, and brilliant. I mean, you're seizing the day. Fantastic spirit. I think
mhm.
everyone would agree. And it's quite funny. It's like, is doing stand up a call for help? Maybe in my case,
Yeah.
it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, amazing. And it sounds like you were always aware of stand up as an art form growing up, but you never
Mhm.
particularly considered it as something that you would do, but that as you were going through the sort of the acting journey and sort of enjoying the funny side of things, and then I was like, well, actually, okay, like how do we? I could give that a go, see what. And so, but when you were doing it, you weren't thinking, right, that's now going to become a main thing for me. It was more like, hey, you only live once. Let's give it a try.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, like in the back of your mind, you're always like, "Oh, I could be a comedian," like like that sort of thing.
Sure.
But it was like, "Oh no, we'll just try it and just see what it's like," or just because obviously, like from the acting background, you're so used to being someone else when you're on the stage. But I
Mm,
was like, "Well, no, I'll see what it's like if I'm just me. If I can just make people laugh without." Obviously you're to a point you're like a heightened version of yourself, but just to be of yourself rather than like of whoever, I was like, oh, that'll be an interesting a challenge if nothing else.
brilliant. Yeah, no, 2 weeks ago, we were talking to Joel Walker, who I think also came from an acting
Yes.
background, and he was saying very much the same thing. I mean, as we were
Mhm.
talking about the well, actually, we were talking about I think the question I asked him was about, yes, as I'll probably ask you in a minute, is about how nervous or how you felt when you were doing it. And Joel admitted to, I sort of like naively said, oh well, Joel, you've acted, so maybe you didn't have any nervousness. And he was saying like, no, actually, it's quite different that putting yourself forward as yourself as opposed to a character that someone else
Mhm.
has written. But I mean, you're coming from a different angle, which is saying like, oh, actually, it will be exciting to perhaps show myself instead of a character. But so then when it came to that first open mic, were you very nervous? You took it in your stride. How did it all go? We'd love to hear.
I genuinely thought I was going to be sick. Like, but in a good way, I guess. I was so nervous I couldn't even. So I live like about. Well, my parents, when I was living with my parents, they live about 45 minutes drive outside Belfast. And I was so nervous I couldn't even drive myself in. Like I had to get my dad to drive me there, but I
Right.
wouldn't let him come in. So he had to sit like outside in his car and wait for me. And I felt so bad. So like shout out to my dad for doing that.
Amazing.
Bless him. Um, and yeah, he dropped me off and then I walk in and the guy like on the door, he like was another comedian. So like because in Belfast there was so I mean there's way more open mics now, like even 3 years on from when I started.
Right.
But there was only like one or two real open mics. So you would have like the bigger comedians would still come to the one I was doing and they would chat to you and take the time. Like honestly, everyone in the NI comedy scene, lovely. So that sort of put me at ease as well. And there was a couple of other like women on the lineup as well. So I was like, yes, like, come on, girls, like we got it. And they were so lovely to me. Um, and they sort of like the MC was like, okay, everyone, give it up. It's Chloe's first ever gig, so be nice, way. And I was like, way. And I actually got like heckled on my first ever gig, but like in like a nice way. Um, so that was sort of I was talking about like a local news story at the time, and someone from the audience was like, recreate it, recreate it now. And I was like, okay. So then I just like recreated it, and everyone was like, way. Um, so that was fun, a fun challenge. Um, yeah, and then I went back like the week or two after that to the same place, and yeah, it's great.
Haven't looked back. Amazing, amazing. So it sounds like it was a great gig. That first experience, you did it. I mean, you saying nervous going up to it. I mean, I guess at no point was that nervousness enough to derail you from doing it. You'd kind of like chosen to do it. I'm going to do it, and you'd experienced nerves before on all sorts of acting and this and another. And then yeah, like I guess, and this is we often talk about it often at the same time. After that first one, how did it feel that was different from the things you did before? What were you feeling in the moments after that first gig?
Oh, phenom. I think I went home and cried, but like in a good way, like in like a, oh my, I can't believe I did that sort of thing. Um, yeah, I was genuinely like, I came out and I was like, this is phenomenal. Like to even like talk to other people who are also making jokes and just to watch other people performing. Like I love that. Um, like it's just yeah, it was amazing, and I was like, yeah, I've got the bug now. Is great.
Yeah. No, there is there's definitely a bug, some kind of compulsion. Is it an addiction? Does it need, some kind of withdrawal symptoms or,
Mhm.
it's funny. I was just also relating to, well, the interesting variation on. So you had your dad drive, but he had to sit outside. My partner is, very, what's the right word? She's very retiring compared to
Mhm.
my outgoingness, and she's never and probably never will come and see my comment. But I remember she was sort of there was a sort of I think there was an anxiety on the part of some of my family members. They're like, "Oh, is this when I started? Is this his cry for help? Do we need to go and support him?" Kind of thing. And I'm like, "No, no, no, no. No. I'm just having fun. You don't have to." And my partner was saying like, I could maybe come, but not. But I would wait outside. And then to see you afterwards. So
Yeah.
then, it's ironic that in your case is you needed the dad to sit outside, but it's just funny.
It's
Yeah,
funny what like your family will say, or they're like, oh, Chloe's doing a bit of the comedy there. She's like just doing a bit of comedy, like it's very funny.
It's a strange mixed up world. But yeah, and then so you've gone on from that. You got the bug, and you've just been doing it more and more frequently. I mean, I guess the acting's still a part of it. Is there now? Do you now have a feeling of kind of like actually, if you wanted something to blow up, I mean, even more. I mean, I think you're starting to blow up as it is. But would you prefer to be doing comedy 24/7, or would you like a mix of different things, or what's your vision for the future going forward? And then how is it going? To tell us where you feel you're up to.
It's going, so I don't know if this might surprise you, but actually, so when I started in Belfast, I did 3 gigs, and then I had signed a lease on a to rent with my then boyfriend at the time, who was English, which is why I moved back over to England. And when I moved over, I didn't do it until the start of this year again.
Oh wow. Okay. So
So I,
you had a
but
big break.
like a 2.5 year break, which was kind of crazy because I was still writing at the time. Like I gen my Google Docs is like mad. So I was writing all this material, and I was like, I'm not I didn't really know how to. It was probably like I took a bit of a back seat in because I was just working so much because I was like London rent. It's crazy. Like, how do you have the time? And then I was looking at all these gigs and I was like, they're all bringers. How do I get into this? That wasn't a thing in Ireland. And I was like, I
Right.
don't understand this. Um, and then I broke up with my boyfriend like the end of last year. And I was like, right, I need to get back into stand up. I have so much material. I'm just going to do it. And in that break, I did a bit of acting work. Like I'm in a like improv D&D show, like off
Cool.
West End, which we do every month, which is class. And I did like a couple of like small commercials, like one for Co-op, which was niche.
Ooh.
And then like an Amazon one, I had to drive a big Amazon van. Horrendous. I didn't know I was meant to be driving it, and they were like, "Have you ever driven a van before?" And I went, "No." And they went, "It's also automatic and electric." And I went, "Class."
Mhm.
Unbelievable sounds. Um, so yeah, so then since the beginning of this year, I've been doing it like 3, 4 times a week. And then in an insane circle of events, I went back to Belfast and headlined the comedy club where I started,
Wow.
which was like genuine. And the comedians who were there on my first ever gig came to see me do it because they were like, "Oh, we saw that you're doing it and we remember your first gig." And I was like, "Stop, because I'm gonna cry." So yeah, and when I say they are nice people, the nicest people.
Wonderful. Absolutely
Yeah.
wonderful. Wow. That's yeah, the one and that brings me back actually to so when you did that very first gig, you'd spent a fair amount of time actually writing and planning what you were going to say for that first gig. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I had like a week to sort of get something together. And I
Right.
was like, right, I wanna do something topical. So I just talked about like local news stories and like where I was working at the time and that sort of thing.
Great, great. And yeah, I just asked, I mean, I sort of assumed that was the case, but just asked to connect that with, yeah, so you did those first few and then that kind of, you caught the bug, but then the circumstances meant that you kind of like, oh, what's going on? But you were always writing and writing and writing and writing and writing. And then, yeah, now the
Mhm.
opportunity this year, fantastic. And I'm also just, you say improv D&D. I mean, I've done both improv and I do D&D, and I know I've got some good friends in Japan who do improv D&D sessions. But right, that's you've got actually like a show that you do. You're saying in there off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do monthly shows in Riverside Studios in Hammersmith.
Wow.
And we're also next week or the week 28th, we're performing at the XL Centre as part of like Dragon Meet. So it's called It's Your Role. And I play a very chaotic little Irish bard, which definitely is not based on true real life events. And yeah, it's great crack. Like I joined that about a year ago, well, we just had our 1 year anniversary actually,
Right.
our 1 year anniversary show. But that also like I feel like that and the resurgence of me doing stand up, it is sort of going together. That's great. It's
Yeah,
great
but
fun.
amazing. Yeah, there's one they do. I think was it is it weekly or monthly in the Tokyo Comedy Bar, which is called Roll for Initiative. And
Oh yes.
but I'm just interested. Is it like LARP where you're dressed up in the costumes, or is it just you're sitting and you're because well, Dungeons and Dragons is often just played in the mind, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Hmm.
Is it also are you physically moving as you're doing the Dungeons and Dragons in improv?
We're more sort of sat at the table. I mean, there are like we had for our 1 year anniversary show, there was like a moment with like a shark, and we were like, right, we have to get up and like act out this
Yes,
thing with the shark here because this is hilarious.
right.
Well, I we thought it was funny. Um, maybe it wasn't. But yeah, so it's more like sat down, but we actually get someone it from the audience involved as well. So it's your role, and then someone from the audience will come up and play with us, which is definitely a fun time because we've had people who've never played D&D before,
Right.
and they get into it. But yeah, it's great crack. It's good. It's
Wonderful,
good stuff.
wonderful stuff. Yes, no, well, I mean, I kind of grew up playing D&D, and it
Mhm.
needs improv skills, and I do occasionally play it with my children sometimes. But yeah, and amazing stuff. Let's move into the second question, which is about how technology is affecting your
Yes.
life and comedy. And as I often say, I mean, technology can include pen and paper, it can include the latest AI system, or indeed the dice that one rolls as part of playing Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, it's sort of no, I think technology is moving fast. Like here we are doing this over Zoom. We're connected with the interwebs all the times. It is also partly though. I am interested in technology. I'm also just interested in your process of how you generate the comedy. Even if it is just on pen and paper, I'm really interested in the way you construct material. But yeah, how is are you you fan of technology? You prefer to go back to the older, simpler times?
I love a bit of both, like AI kind of stress, especially as like an illustrator. AI is kind of like, when you go to like a market or whatever and you see like all AI art. And I was
Mhm.
like, I was up at 3 a.m. making this clay piece or whatever, you know. So that side of it, not really a fan of. Other technology like TikTok, love. I think that's like great for comedy. I think it's great for, actors or a way you can just make anything. Like
Mhm.
you can just put it out there, and people might see it, people might not see it. Um, but I used to do like I need to get back into it. That's my New Year's resolution. Is to get back into sort of posting on TikTok regularly because I used to post like once a day, like a new sketch every day, which was a lot
Yeah.
of writing, but a fun time to do that. And yeah, in terms of writing, my notes app and my Google Docs is my best friend, and my notes app on my phone. And then I did buy myself actually a nice new notebook, a wee Guinness notebook. Um, Not to be stereotypical. Um, and I was like, right, this is where I'm gonna put all my comedy. I'm gonna write, with sets in here, da da da. And I haven't really touched it in a while. But
Mm.
I but because it's so easy on Google Docs. You can highlight things, you can do this, you can do that. Um, and especially if you're out and about, like if I'm on the bus and I'm like, that's an idea for a bit, put it in my phone.
Yes, yes. I think that so many of us are doing that. And then do you have like a regular pattern with which you're going back to those notes to kind of extract things, or is it just kind of like is it all sort of free form and then you're in the moment? And just as an examples, speaking to Kean last week, he was saying he following I think what his comedy mentor was saying, he does 20 minutes writing a day, sort of forces himself to sit down, doesn't, just and not let himself off the hook, just will write. But it's
Mhm.
free writing it more. It could be anything, but 20 minutes reserved for writing. And Callum McKenzie, his comedy mentor had said, write 10 jokes a day, and he holds himself to that. Is there any kind of structured thing that you're doing to apart from the spontaneous ideas that come through. Is there any sort of structure that you apply to the way you're developing the material?
I absolutely need one. That's I absolutely do not have one, and I really sometimes feel so stressed that I don't. I definitely need to get into like a better routine with that. Whether that's in the morning, just need to with my breakfast or whatever. Um, because sometimes like I'll be going to like a new material night or whatever, and I'm like, what am I doing? So that's, again, it's just the work balance sort of thing. Never mind a work-life balance. Let's be what's that?
Yeah.
I need like a work balance of like acting and then illustrating and then comedy. So yeah, it is mainly if I'm on the bus or yeah,
Yeah.
but
And well, I would feel bad if you were interpreting my mentioning of these other folks doing those particular strategies to feel like that's a pressure. I mean, I think, there's absolutely other people who are doing very, very different things. And I think sometimes like not having a strategy is a strategy. I mean, I think the key thing ultimately has got to be that one is enjoying the process of
Mhm.
doing it. And yeah, it's yeah, yeah. And then so I mean at the moment it's more like the ideas come and you maybe knock them around on the page. And obviously there was that period where you weren't performing and you were doing a lot of knocking around in
Mhm.
Google Docs. And then when you're performing, is it that you've written out long form exactly what it is you're going to say and then you're saying it on stage, or is it more that you write pointers and then you sort of fill in the blanks as you're on stage, or how does that work?
I will fully write out a script, but then not like stick to it, if you know what I
Mm,
mean.
mm.
Um, so I was actually speaking to one of my comedian friends,
Yeah,
Fred, who's a comedian. That's
yeah,
I met him through comedy,
sure.
and we were up. I went up to the Fringe this year just for one day.
Yeah.
I'd never been to Edinburgh before, and I was like, this is crazy. And we just went up to see some stuff, and I was talking to him, and he was showing me his Google Docs, and he genuinely had like the word like I don't know, like I'm looking at a guitar, like guitar, and he would know what he wants to talk about, and I'm like, that's crazy. Like to me, like obviously once you've written it,
Mm,
then if I have like camogie, I'm like, right, that's my camogie bit.
mm,
But I'm like, yeah, but do you have that? And he's like, no. And I'm like, that's like to me, I'm like, no, I need to have it written out and then I can riff off it depending
mm.
on what it is. I'm not like, oh, I didn't say and it was purple or like I'm not like a stickler for the words.
Right.
Um, but he was like, oh no, Chloe, like next time you go on stage, like I challenge you to just do that. And I was like, that's mad. Like absolutely, like I need to at least write to the joke and then I can, but he's phenomenal. So
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think it's that it's not a one size fits all. There's many many different ways of doing it. Certainly, that's some people's.
Mm.
I was thinking we had Jay Yamaki on the podcast, and he I think likes to prepare, but then I think where he's at is he's saying, but then what actually happens on the stage, whatever. If I get to bit number two or bit number three, or if I don't, it doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
It's like really about being in the moment. I mean, I do this thing, which whether it's funny or not doesn't matter, but I do this thing that I call my comedy booby trap 2 nights a week in virtual reality, and I take 5 thoughts from my day and I just riff off each of those thoughts and then talk to the audience in between, what have you. And there's something about that space of just if I can get completely relaxed and just be playing in the space of ideas, that I think there's something special there. I mean, I don't mean special about me. I mean, I just like I think if one can seek that, there's something about that I find super fun. But then there's other people like famous Mike Birbiglia, who every word I think is crafted for effect, and that they're. I think what's odd about comedy is unlike music, where if you liked. jazz, you wouldn't necessarily be expected to like classical. But in the different sort of style, there's so many different styles of comedy, but they're not necessarily so cleanly divided as they might
Mhm.
be in music. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I feel like my style of comedy is very much like storytelling type of like that sort of
Mm.
style. It's not like super punchy, punchy, punchy sort of thing. So I'm like, well, I feel like I have to. This is the one thing I did take away from drama school, which was pretty good. So we had an exercise where we had a jigsaw puzzle in front of us, and it was like one of the like stupid ones. It's like a million thousand pieces. Like it wasn't like an
Mm.
easy one,
Mm.
and we had to recite the lines of like the play we were doing, so like Chekhov or whatever. And it was like the lines were so ingrained in you but you had to keep doing the puzzle as fast as you could. So that was the one thing you were focused on. So that for me in comedy, I'm like, well, I have the script, but I have to throw that away when I'm on stage.
Mm.
But it's like the skeleton, so I can come away from it or come back to it
Mm.
in that sort of thing. So that's the one thing that will stick in my head because it really freed you up and you can't be focused on the lines. That has to be like a second, not a second skin or like it has to be so behind you.
Well, second nature, I think, is
So yeah.
Joel Walker was talking about the same thing. This like once you know them backwards, forwards, what have you,
Hmm.
you can effectively. It's a bit like you driving a car, and you can
Yeah.
be having a conversation with the person. You're so familiar with driving the car that usually having the conversation will not distract you from the driving.
Hmm.
Yes, yeah, no, I mean, it sounds very reassuring to have that script. I just find the process of beating a script into myself to be so unpleasant that I'm like, I must find this other way that involves, like infinite creativity in the mind of the moment or
Hmm.
something or the what have you.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear so much about your process. But and then so when you were talking about liking the TikTok and the connection and so on there. I mean, you mentioned the AI illustrate. I mean, I think there is this weird situation we have with this new AI technology that is seemingly to varying degrees able to replicate aspects of what all sorts of creative people do, which is very very strange. But do you see your like I guess is your livelihood being affected by that? But I guess let's say take the AI and the social media. How's that affecting how you get your life done at the moment? And yeah, riff on that.
Um, I actually don't think it's like affected me like too much, but I know like a lot of artists friends like we are concerned about AI and about that. Um, I think I don't know. I don't think it's affected me too much, touch wood. I think it's like when you go to a market or you go to like a Comic Con, if you are positioned like sort of beside a stall, like I did one at Comic Con where I was right opposite a stall that was just selling like AI posters and they were like packed the whole time, mainly from like parents maybe who didn't know it was AI or people who didn't really mind. And then obviously when that is cheaper than like the things that I have drawn, printed, cut out myself, like all of this. And you do get people going like, I know this isn't really about comedy, but you do get people going like, oh well, I can get the something cheaper over there for
Mhm.
like a fiver and yours is like £16. And I'm like, because I made it. A human made it. Please. Um, but in terms of like TikTok and stuff, I don't think like AI has really affected me. Like there's like AI bits that, the only AI I would really use is when it like auto generates your captions like
Mhm.
on like a video, like I think that's great. Or like I'm not against all AI. Like you
Sure.
have AI for helping like blind people, like it auto describes things or like that's great. Um but sometimes like yeah, AI I'm just like guys.
yeah,
What are we doing?
indeed. I mean, there was someone said that we wanted the AI to wash our dishes, not to draw our paintings for us. The
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
the purely selfishly, you mentioned there AI for captioning. Are you using a particular app to caption your videos?
I just use like CapCut. CapCut's pretty good. I pay for like the subscription
Right.
on that. And it just, although sometimes it doesn't always get my accent, so you do have to go in and like
Yeah,
do
yeah. I mean,
that.
I forget the one that I was using now before, which was I was having similar trouble with, and I switched. I actually built my kind of using AI. I kind of
Mhm.
vibe coded a solution which is still not perfect, but anyway, yeah, it's a kind of little like rabbit hole that I keep going down. Yeah, and
That's
it does feel yeah, that thing where that if the AI can produce it cheaper and you're losing revenue to that. I was traveling on the tube the other day, and there was a busker, and he had next to his card reader, it said "Keep music human," and it does sort of feel like that. I mean, recently on Spotify, I think I had it set. I don't know if I intended to. I had it set on the AI playlist, and it seemed to be inserting AI generated tracks in between the ones in my particular playlist. And to be honest, I
Mhm.
was not enjoying it. And
Mhm.
it's there's we do seem to be there's a risk that we get completely overloaded with kind of AI slop, so to speak. On the social media side, Kian last week was talking about how he finds himself sort of stuck doom scrolling or scrolling on Instagram. I mean, how are you managing your life social media balance? Is that a challenge or not so much?
Yeah, massive. Like I am so bad for doom scrolling. Like I just get and then like so I recently, well I say recently, maybe like a year and a half ago, I introduced my mum to TikTok.
Oh,
So now she'll like send me TikToks or I'll like send her and like, on the surface I'm like, oh, I like it, my mom's sharing funny videos with me and like if I don't get to speak to her all the time, like well, I speak to her every day anyway. But I'm like, oh, it's she'll send me this and like we are connecting over shared videos. Great on the surface, but then I'm like, if I say a message and then I go on and then I get sucked in and then yeah, so that is something that I need to, because I like to wake up super early. I'm like a early morning person.
sure.
So then I'm like, great. But particularly, I find this more difficult in the winter months. In the summer, I'm like, class, I'll get up, it's warm, I'm up early. In the winter, when it's cold, I'm like, well, I'm up at 6, but it's too cold to get out of bed, so I'm just going to doom scroll for like an hour. And that's the hard thing about being self-employed because
Mhm.
I am just working for myself.
Mm,
So
mm.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's a struggle.
tricky. Yeah, no, I mean, I've deleted TikTok from my phone because I can't, that's the only way to control it. I find
Mhm.
it's, yeah, but I mean, you said earlier on about, I mean, the amazing value of these things for creators to put their stuff out there, and it's just something that didn't exist in the past. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, well, let's maybe move on to our next question, which is about the people that have had the biggest impact on your life and comedy. And this often is kind of like people have often mentioned most of them in the comedy origin story, but it's a chance to just really highlight re-highlight or mention other people that you haven't mentioned. I mean and also actually to mention your sort of the influences of great actors or illustrators or comedians or who do you see as the people who've had the biggest impact on you?
My mom, definitely. It's like, I mean, if anyone has ever met my mom, they're like, Chloe, you're the same person. Like genuinely, I am a carbon copy of her. And like, well, I don't know, maybe if this had like a subconscious effect into me wanting to do comedy. But like anytime even growing up, I would just get myself into the most bizarre situations. Like, I actually don't understand. Like sometimes I'll do, a gig or whatever, people come up to me and going, how much of that was a lie? And I'm like, no, genuinely.
Mm.
Like for example, the other the other night at Crack Up Comedy, I was like, I'm not even going to get into the venue. Like
Right, right.
I like for the podcast listeners,
Yeah.
I went to go in and the guy asked me for ID and I was like, well, I don't have it. And I thought he was I thought he was joking. And then he goes, well, I don't, and I went, I don't have it. And he goes, well, you can come in and use the toilet, but then you're going to have to leave. And I went, well, I'm actually performing on the comedy. And he was like, well, you need your ID. And I had, I was like, I'm on the poster. And he was like, okay, go on ahead. And everyone was
Yeah.
like, did that? I'm like, yes. So yeah, it like when I would tell my mom and be like, this happened to me in work today, or this happened to me, and she's like, Chloe, you know, you like, you're so funny. Like the wish the way you tell a story, and I'm like, yeah, so you know, so my mom
Mm.
definitely.
Yeah.
Also, Luke McGibbon, who runs the pavilion,
Right.
um, he's amazing. He has
Mm.
a special on YouTube at the minute called Journeyman, like
Wonderful.
Journeyman,
Mm.
because he describes himself and other people sort of describe him as like like the ferryman of comedy. Like he
Wonderful.
will take people and send them on their way to comedy heaven or like whatever. And yeah, he's so kind and so encouraging. And yeah, he was sort of the first person that was like, no, you are funny. And I was like, thank you. Um, so shout out Luke. And yeah, basically like anyone who I have sort of like met in comedy over here, even like everyone is so nice. Um, so yeah, and also in a sort of weird way, like shout out to my ex
Oh yeah.
for because if we didn't break up, I don't know if I feel like I've like really flourished. So um, you know,
Yeah. Was it they say? Adversity builds character. Um,
exactly.
or as Eckhart Tolle, who is like a spiritual guy who I end up listening to perhaps too much. But he says that we don't evolve without challenges, and that's how
Mhm.
Anyway, I mean it is true. Like if everything was completely easy and simple and straightforward all the time, the world would be a better place. No, no, apparently no, it wouldn't. No, no, it would be boring or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
There, just out of the fantastic shout outs there. I'm just out of interest. Are there particular stand-up comedians that you feel that you were influenced by? I mean, if not, no problem at all. But
Uh,
anybody comes to mind?
Aisling B,
Oh yes.
100%. She's amazing. And also like Deirdre O'Keefe.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm just amazing. And like just Irish women
Hmm. Hmm.
doing like, oh, Emma Doran as well.
Hmm.
Particularly her because she took like a massive break as well. Like she started and then had like a massive break. And then,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I just think like Irish women doing comedy. Like, I mean, all women doing everyone doing comedy.
Yes.
But yeah, Irish women, I think it's a lot of because you can see, you know, you can see yourself in that, and you can see, well, you know, they're selling out arenas, they're
Right.
doing Vicar Street, they're doing, you know, the SSC or you know stuff like this, and it's amazing to see. Like, so yeah, a lot of
Brilliant.
Irish women.
Brilliant. Yeah. No, I think that the diversity piece is really important. And something we try and go for. I mean, there are, of course, so many young white men who just, I mean, I mean, I don't know what that's quite about. Well, I have some theories, but
Mm.
yeah, I think one has to work to sort of diversify, and I think every effort put in that is well worth it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking for more, older, balding, middle-aged comedians being represented. I mean, ones who live, like maybe in Harrow, who like have podcasts. And I'm trying to find some demographic that actually makes it. Who, I don't know, like what else could there be? Like wear these glasses. Anyway, Fantastic. But well, on onwards to our penultimate question,
Hmm.
which is how do drugs affect your perception of reality? And
Hmm.
uh, as I'm often saying, at the risk of boring the listeners, is when I say drugs, I don't necessarily mean are they evil or not or good? Illegal drugs. I mean, caffeine is a drug. ADHD medication is a drug. Like was it paracetamol is a drug? Did I start with that one? I'm confused. I was trying to do a rule of three. I'm getting lost in my own brain. Yeah, maybe I need to take some more drugs. But only as much or as little as you want to share.
Hmm.
I'm really interested in what, if any, substances are helping you get through the day or helping you look at the world in a different way.
Hmm.
Yeah, anything at all?
Yeah, so I'm like many other comedians have ADHD, but surprise, but I've been off medication for about is it 2 years now.
Okay.
So I was on medication for like 3 years, and then I don't know why I just wake up one day and go, I'm gonna do this. Because I just woke up one day and went, I'm just gonna come off the medication. Um, I just wanted a sort of, I just do a lot of things sometimes for the crack. And I
Mm,
was like, I'll just see what it's like off the medication.
sure.
Um, because I was just like feeling so demotivated and so like I genuinely felt like I had no energy when it got to like 3 p.m.
Mm,
And I'm like a very energetic person, like if anything, I have too much energy. So
mm,
I was like, this isn't me. Like this is not, excuse me, this is not natural for me.
mm,
So yeah, I came off the medication and again, one like, and I'm not trying because I have many friends on ADHD medication and it works wonders for them and it
mm,
worked great for me at the start. Like I started it at uni, so it helped
mm,
me and it was great. But honestly, best thing I did coming off them, like I feel so much more like me.
mm,
And yes, like I forget things all the time. It's crazy. Um, but I do feel like great. Like I have so much more energy until like the very end of if anything too much, like I'm lying in bed and I'm going, I can't sleep, but
mm,
that's fine. Um, but yeah, in terms of like other like caffeine, I love my coffee in the morning. Like I literally just before this podcast ran down to Tesco because I realized I'd ran out of coffee for tomorrow and I was like, no, I need to go get it because I
mhm,
can't not have that.
mhm,
Um yeah, and then also like in terms of like other drugs, like I'm so boring. Like I like to the point where I was doing this like trader, you know, like do you know the traders?
The
So I was
trade,
doing
the
yeah,
traders.
the traders. I was doing like a parody of that. With like
Traders is a show or something. Is it? I'm
yes.
okay. I'm like,
Oh, oh, you
tell
need to
me,
watch it. It's
traitors.
it's it's
Yes.
yeah, it's on BBC. They just did a celebrity version with like Nick
Oh yeah.
Mohammed and all these other comedians. It was amazing. Um, and it's like there's like three traders, and they're like they have to murder someone at the table, and then they have to lie that they're not a trader, and
Okay.
people have to guess. So
Right.
I did like a parody of that
Oh yeah.
with some other like Northern Irish comedians last month back in Belfast, which class. But I was a trader.
Uh-huh.
And one of the questions on the thing was like, oh, what is something that like people might not know about you?
Hmm.
And I put down, I was like, oh, I've never taken any drugs or like smoked weed or like any of that. And people were like, Chloe, that's so obvious that that's you. Like, you literally like can't make it any more obvious that that is you. And I was like, yeah, fair enough.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, and even like I didn't really go clubbing growing up. Like, I used to work in a club, and I that was the first time I'd ever been in a club.
Mhm.
was
Right.
was when I went for the interview. Um, so yeah, that side of things, I'm very much like nothing against them. Like, do you know what I mean? I went to uni. I went to a drama school, which like, do you know what I mean?
Sure.
But I just never appealed to me. I don't know why. I
Yeah, and I
think
think that, go on.
I was just gonna say I think I'm probably crazy enough, like without.
Well,
you know.
I mean, I think, yeah, it's a weird situation if one needs extra substances to be more beautiful and wonderful than ultimately everybody is. I think everybody is.
Mhm.
It's yeah, and the very much the podcast is not like advocating one drug versus another drug. I mean, I think what we're really interested in is people, and we're
Mhm.
really interested in how they manage themselves. I mean, it was really interesting for me for last week to hear about Kian and the vaping, which I don't really know anything about and wasn't a
Mhm.
thing when I was growing up and experimenting with stuff. And yeah, just hearing the details of those things is fascinating. Many you I'm sure be shocked to hear many of the previous comedians have talked about their ADHD on the podcast. It's I mean, who'd have thought it?
Yeah.
So rare. And but you're the first person who's talked about having the meds and then being off them, I think, which is really interesting. I mean, I connect that with your decision to like go and try the open mic. You say you sometimes you wake up and you say, right, I'm going to try open mic comedy. Right, I'm going to come off the meds. The yeah, I'm kind of fascinated by them. Well, in that some of the people who talk. I mean, I'm also a comedian. I'm also quite energetic, and I also. I mean, you described that thing of like you have a very high energy level. I think I do as well, and I that kind of like not being able to sleep at the end of the day because you're and I've yeah I yeah I don't know I have as I've talked about before mixed feelings about the medication of these conditions. Certainly, I mean, as you've already said, I mean, we're not advocating for people to just suddenly stop taking their
Yeah.
meds. I mean, I
Oh
think
no, definitely consult. Like, don't just
yeah,
do not do what I did. I didn't even titrate down. I just stopped. So
and
that's not good.
that's right, and everybody's different. And I think, I mean, in the same way that I mean, a pattern that had come out. We had several comedians talking about how before they were ever on ADHD medication, they found that cocaine affected them in a sort of suppressing way rather than an
Mhm.
activating way, as it did for other people. But I think, I mean, the key thing generally is just because someone in a blog or a podcast or on YouTube has said that something affects them in a certain
Mhm.
way does not mean that translates to you. But I'm just interested if you're willing to share, like
Mhm.
how did the ADHD manifest itself when you were at university? What were the main symptoms that you were experiencing that then meant you thought maybe this is something I should get medication for?
Mhm. I was so like anxious like all the time. Like I was the most anxious person ever. I was not like confident. I was constantly just go like my brain. I mean, it's overactive now still, but it was overactive to a point where I was like it was like debilitating.
Sure.
Um, and I was like forgetting like things like, we would have like homework for an assignment and I would just randomly forget it or like, I would forget keys. I would lock myself out of like my flat once. Like it was
Mm,
horrendous. Like I was struggling to like focus on like learning lines and like we would do like a new scene like every week and I was like can't keep up with this. Like this
mm,
is
mm,
really affecting me. And like all throughout my teenage years, I was diagnosed like anxiety, depression, like all of this. And I never felt like it really like fitted with me or I was like, there's still something like going on. Um, so yeah, so then I went through like Right to Choose, which great about England because Northern Ireland doesn't have that.
oh, really?
Um, and yeah, I was in my assessment for ADHD, and the woman said to me, she genuinely was like, "How have you survived 20 years like
Mm,
with unmedicated?" She genuinely was like, "I don't think I've ever met anyone who screams it as much as you." And I was like, class. And then this also maybe contributed to comedy because she said to me, I said something and then she laughed. And then she went, "Oh, I'm so sorry. What you're saying, like, it's not funny, but you tell your trauma in a very entertaining way."
right,
And I
right,
went, class. I was
right.
like, I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you very much. Like,
Like
thank you.
comedians this way, please. It.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, and then I was on it for a good few years. I was on all different types. I've
Mm,
tried them all.
mm,
Um, and yeah, I was on a decent dosage and then it just, I don't know, like it worked for me at the start. Like it helped me sort of
Right.
I was on it when I started my business like 5 years ago.
Right.
It helped me be organized for that. It helped me, I mean, I was on it when I applied for my first open mic,
Mm.
um, and stuff like that. And then, yeah, it just got to a point where I was like, I don't think I'd sort of built myself up into a routine, and I was, working full time, and I was like, this is fine. Like, I think I'm going to just give it a go
Yeah,
and
yeah.
see. And I was like, look, worst comes to worst, I'll just go back on it.
Right,
There's
right.
no harm, no foul,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. And and
Um,
and now 2 years in, you're like, okay, happier this way.
Yeah, great. I take like magnesium supplements, which sort of help me like
Mm.
sleep a bit.
Hmm.
Well, or maybe it's a placebo. It could be. Who knows? But yeah, I just take those, and I take like iron and vitamin C, vitamin B,
Yes.
vitamin A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Yes.
like
Yes, yes,
all that.
I do a lot of vitamins and omega threes and so on. But with
Mhm.
all these things, with ourselves, it's unless one has an identical twin, which and I do have identical twin boys, so I sometimes think about it. You can't really do a controlled experiment. Like it's like on any given day, your system is everything that you eat, every substance you take, every experience that you have, that's all potentially impacting how you feel. And,
Mhm.
so like, I mean, and you can find, effectively a correlation. Oh, like let's say it was coffee. All right, these 5 days in a row, I've had coffee and I felt pretty good each of these 5 days. You might say, well, that's the pattern. But there was so many other things going on. I mean, I think
Mm.
I think I've got quite good evidence for me that the correlated pattern for me is that if I drink a lot of coffee every day, it all gets a bit messy, and I, have to be on the decaf. But that's another story, which has been told at length. Yeah, yeah, it's a strange mixed up world, which brings us
Mhm.
in to our final question, which is what does it all mean? This life, this universe, this everything, and it's. Just to give you a bit of background, I mean, sometimes people have said that's a stupid middle class question. There's important struggles in the world. We've got to deal with Palestine, with Trump, with what have you. What is this ridiculous question? I mean, to me, that's actually an answer to the question. Like, if maybe the meaning of life is to be focusing on these particular struggles, or
Mhm.
maybe you've got a religious upbringing, or maybe you've got anything at all. I'm just sort of and no pressure for it to be deep and meaningful. I mean, it's more about for you, like for the stuff that you've seen so far and how it's going. Like, how do you make meaning for it, and what gets you up in the morning?
Mhm. I think like, well, love the the explanation. Um, I think genuinely, without it sounding, which also right, this is, I was going to say without sounding cringe, but to be cringe is to be free. I
Mm.
don't believe
Mm.
in cringe. Like when people go, "Oh, that's so cringe," I'm like, guys, we're all just humans, okay? Like we're all like, it's cringe sort of until it's like n not.
Mm.
And I just think like just we just have to be nice to everybody. That I think that's the biggest culture shock for me moving to London. Was that everyone isn't as nice as back home, especially on the tube, because I wanted to speak to people on the tube when I first moved here, and I thought that was the done thing. It is not. It is absolutely not. But I still do. I literally like, for example, one of my best friends I met in an airport. Our flight was delayed. We just started talking. So I just think, just be nice to everybody. Like you don't know if you speak to someone on the tube, that could be their only conversation that day. So if you can just say, "Oh hi, how you doing?" or whatever, they might go home maybe in a wee bit of a better mood. Um, I don't see the point in being rude to people, or, "Oh, I'm above you because I do this," or "I've got X amount of followers." Who cares? The world's made up. You know what I mean? We're on a bit of rock. Like,
Right.
let's be real.
It is a big rock.
Um,
There's no
so
denying that.
yeah. So I think that for me is like, yeah, it's important to not be afraid to say what you want to say, like with obviously within reason, like being like from an Irish background, that sort of thing, like uh, you know, it's like for example, I was watching Big Brother, love Big Brother, big Big Brother fan, and there was a girl from Derry on. and there was an like posh English girl on, and she was saying, "Oh, but you shouldn't say that you're Irish because you're part of the UK, and and you should be embarrassed to say that." Um, and like, I'm not a confrontational person, but if that was me in the house, I would have been like, "How dare you say that?" Hurrah! Which maybe would contradict me going, "Be nice," but you have to stick up for yourself, back yourself. And I just thought, but who are you to tell that to Jenny from Derry? Who are you to say what her identity is? You know what I mean? So yeah, just be nice, people.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, lots of exciting things there that I'll just, in no particular order. If you like speaking to people on the tube and you're a stand-up comedian, you should speak to Simi Rajani, who runs a stand-up comedy show that runs on the tube.
Yes, yes, I was messaged her on Tube Comedy, and you get to wear the wee yellow hat, which also such a cute wee hat. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant stuff. Yeah, we had Simi on, and we work together regularly. But yeah, the oh brain. I mean, one day maybe I'll do the tube comedy. That's kind of a bit. I don't know. It's. I mean, yeah, I wish I was younger. Anyway, just separately, not related to that. Or, I'm not sure. But yeah, and so yeah, it's interesting about that you mentioned that because I mean I remember traveling to the States when I was in my 20s or like when I was 20 and traveling with some Irish folks and the way that one guy in particular spoke so warmly and friendly to every air stewardess and like random person that and I was just it was and had these like lovely little interactions which was just like oh yes I mean like I think that the English have got this kind of reserve of kind of it's kind of weird. I don't know what that's a hangover from, but and the Americans generally seem to be much more ready to just have a conversation and be there's kind of like we're all in it to sort of together. Although I think there's a flip, certain type. I think there's an aspect of particularly large cities like London, like on the tube. There's a kind of sometimes the people who might be talking to you are ones who, if they start, they won't let go. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
I think there's a kind of fear of if I engage with anybody, I will be something weird will happen, and it's a shame because I think that shall we call it the Irish American more
Mhm.
friendly, fun, happy thing. That's a much nicer culture to live in. And one of the things I enjoy about doing comedy is now I know loads more people and we have lots of little chats and you have lots of little interactions and it's
Mhm.
great. Yeah. Yeah. But to go on to that thing on the Big Brother with that, I think what's strange is that there are some people who've got very, very strong ideas of the world should be this way, and I don't mean that to
Mhm.
defend this, posh person who like whatever, but it's almost like, and again, it's Eckhart Tolle is that person, and absolutely, I think one's
Mhm.
pride in where one come from, and any aspect for yourself, you shouldn't be steamrolled over because someone else says,
Mhm.
oh, don't do that, what have you. But I guess there's an extent to which there are people only act at the kind of level that they're able. So that person, that posh young lady, is on a journey where she just hasn't had enough exposure to these things, or hasn't had her identity threatened in quite the same way. And
Mhm.
I think it's easy to be outraged at such a person, but you can also feel sorry for such a person that they're kind of like not yet at that stage where they know any better, really.
But 100%, like, because not to be like when I moved over here, but when I moved over here, I was shocked at how little people knew. And it wasn't like even yesterday I was speaking to this woman at the craft market I was doing, and she was, in her 40s, and I was saying, because I was brought up Protestant, and family's Protestant from a Protestant area. So even for me to identify as Irish, sort of like, it's a bit of a, and I was telling her this because we just got talking. She was talking about where she was from and
Mm,
all of
mm,
this, and she was like, yeah, like that's I've never heard of that, and it's mad that we're only like a 50-minute flight away,
right,
and so many people don't know. And then sort of they might have like, oh, but this and that. And then you go, oh no, but actually this happened so many years ago, and we had our language stripped of us, and this,
right,
that, and the
right.
other. And then they go, I had no idea. I didn't know. And
No.
that's, like educate people, and then if they're still like, well, you shouldn't do that, then okay, that's a bit. But if like genuinely, if they don't know, then you can't be like annoyed at somebody, like.
It is remarkable. I mean, as I often say at the beginning of my comedy shows, and particularly of Irish acts are performing, I start by saying I'm terribly sorry for all of the nasty, awful things we've done to you over the years. And if it was up to me, it's not. But on behalf of the British government, we should be paying bigger reparations. I
Mhm.
mean, me for president. Is there president in this country? And no, don't make me have any kind of responsibility whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, I found growing up, I was kind of glued to the news. I mean, I've cut it out now, and I also I was reading these kind of like quite weird radical cartoon things. I forget the name of it now. That was talking a lot about aspects of things that were going on in Ireland and East versus West Germany and so on. And I've always had a keen interest in that sort of thing, but yeah, it's like different people. Like certainly with like my experience going through the UK state education system between like 1980 and 1995 or whatever, basically there was no education about the details of the relationship between England and Ireland, and it's so like for a lot of people, it's just, I mean, it is bizarre, but I mean, this is also a kind of, like my partner's from Japan, and so like the way they like our understanding of, for example, the Second World War is very different from their understanding of the Second World War, and just
Mhm.
countries, like that whole process whereby a country decides to educate its population on parts of history and other and different ones and so on is very strange. Yeah, we live in strange times, and I think that's also we end up people end up with they I think the danger for any of us is to assume that what we know so far is really representative of everything. We all kind of live in these kind of little bit bubbles, and so I often feel like the most sensible position to take is, you know, this is what I know so far, and I might be wrong, and be open to learning more, rather than being quite so sure that everything that you've heard so far is absolutely 100% the truth.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Like even like when you're like learning stuff, or if you're going, I mean, in terms of my like lived experience, like if I'm going to a new market, or if I'm going to an audition and someone goes, oh, well, actually, the way you've done this character, it's not that. Like, and I'm going, oh, thank you for telling me, because you're like, you need to be a sponge, you need to take, and then if it actually doesn't end up working, that's fine. But soak it all up, and then you can process it in your own mind in whatever way.
Words to live by that I have failed to live by for
Mhm.
so long. I mean, I think I have generally been so defensive. It was a friend of mine today was saying to me about the, as I mentioned at the beginning, about the podcast, that maybe I make a little bit too many of the aha noises in the background. And in the past, I might have said, who are you calling a pussy? Or I don't know. I would have just made it into a big fight. And
Mhm.
I've learned over many years and painful experiences and people taking me aside is that actually, like, I mean, it's great that he's felt confident enough to give me that feedback. And so, that I think you can absolutely. I mean, it's amazing that you're at this stage and have already internalized this fantastic lesson. But you can kind of is put yourself into that mode where you do feel if it's something that you're creating, and you're receiving criticism about it, you kind of feel, "Hmm." But if you can switch yourself into the, wow, thanks so much for the feedback, and okay, that's interesting, and I maybe try that. That puts it increases the chance that people are gonna, because if you react like people are gonna, okay, right, there's no telling that person we're not gonna, and you end up like Kanye West.
Mhm.
So don't want to do that.
Yep.
Um,
100%.
Fantastic. Just as a final little thing, you mentioned Protestantism. Does religion inform your understanding of the universe at all? Is it not so much? How does that fit into the picture?
I think like not so like I wouldn't really call myself religious. My granny, my nanny as I would call her, she was super super religious. Like never like took a drink in her life, like never any of that. And growing up sort of in like the towns I was from, and like the school I went to was very all religious. Like there's sort of like a meme, which I don't know, like of like Northern Irish, like Christians, like that sort of thing. Like it's a very intense group, some of them. But I don't know, I'm just not really super religious. I think it's great if you are, like more power to you, that you have something that. brings you like joy and calm and something that you can maybe start your day with or end your day with, phenomenal. I think that's great. Um, but yeah, I think growing like up Protestant, and it was really when I moved to England for the first time and everyone saw me just as Irish. No one went, but you're a prod, you're British. And I
Mm.
went, whoa. I genuinely felt like, like in like a movie or something, then the camera just goes, whoa. Like that was genuinely what I felt like. I was like, that's mad. And I felt like my world and my brain has been opened so much from moving away from my super small town that
Mm.
was maybe super religious, super Protestant, flags everywhere. Um, yeah, and I feel like that's sort of been the most like influential thing is to leave that super small community. And I love it. I mean, I go back all the time, like as much as I can, and I love the people there. I love everything about it. If nothing against, like I maybe now would disagree with some of their like politics or disagree with the hard Britishness of it, but I love going back. I love
Mm.
it, and I would never have like a bad thing to say about like Susie in the post office. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just because, I mean, not that I would go into the post office and go, guys, I'm Irish. Never in a million years. Absolutely not. I don't want any our windows done in. But you know, I love the place. Like,
Amazing stuff. It's fascinating, and even like as you're describing it, it's opening my mind to, there was the stuff that I saw on the news and the stuff that I read in these, radical comics and what have you, is again still different from the lived experience. And part of what
mhm,
you're sharing there, helps me understand that, there is a lot more for all of
mhm,
us to understand. Certainly me, because I've
mhm.
made a lot of mistakes in my life. Fantastic. Chloe, it's been an absolute joy talking to you. People will be screaming and bashing whatever, solid items together that they can find, wanting me to ask you, where can the people go to find out more about you and how they can see your comedy and your acting and your illustrating and so on? What should people do?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to chat away. Um, yes, so my all my acting and comedy, I'm on Instagram and TikTok as I'm Chloe Cam, so like at I am Chloe CAM. And then my illustration is jammyweekend.com or on Instagram as jammyweekend. And I'm in yet D&D show. It's your role. Next show, 28th of November at Dragon Meet at the XL Centre. Woohoo! Um, yeah, and it should be great, great fun. We've got Ed Hearn from Mischief Theatre. He's joining us for that as our guest, so it should be good crack.
Fantastic. Well, we'll get links to all of those things
Mhm.
in the show notes. And thanks everyone for listening. And remember, you can help support comedians on technology, people, and drugs by going to patreon.com/comedians on, where any level of support will help us continue to produce this show. I don't think anybody's supported us yet. Maybe they never will. I mean, does that site even exist? Or do any of it, is it all a dream in the mind of God? Who knows? But what you can do, even if it is a dream in the mind of God, Facebook does exist with a group where you can comment and ask questions there, or on Spotify. So we look forward to being in your ears again soon. Last word to our fantastic guest, Chloe Campbell.
Sláinte.